Nice to see old names and new names. Welcome, everybody. So here we go again. It's the 12th online meeting in the series, What Makes Our Inner Work Work? I called this, I don't know how to call it, episode or this part, Is It Working? Or am I avoiding pain and discomfort? This is following a very interesting email that I got from one of you asking interesting questions. I'll tell you about it in a moment. As I'm talking, you're very welcome to write in the Zoom chat box. I won't be able to look much at the Facebook chat. If anybody's writing something there, you're very welcome to view there, but it won't be as interactive and you won't be able to ask questions. So if you feel like it, join us here in the Zoom. And also, thank you everyone who's going to be watching in the future on YouTube or in other places on the web. Okay, so here we go. So is it working, or am I avoiding pain and discomfort? So as I said a few seconds ago, I got a letter, and you're all welcome to write me to my email, Ora Gavriely with a Y @gmail.com, and ask questions. And in this email, which I'm translating into English now, it said more or less this. Hi, Ora. First, I'd like to say that I watch all your shows about the inner work, and they really help me. So thanks for that. My question is, how do you know the inner work is working apart from how you feel after you do it? Let me explain. For the past months, I've been doing a lot of emotional and inner work. I feel I'm advancing and that I'm more at peace with myself. But as you said last time, I often find myself doing inner work when I have some negative feelings and I want it to move. Then I meditate or do something like emotional release, and the negative feeling usually passes. But how do I know I'm not making a sort of emotional bypass instead of being with my emotions and accepting them, staying with them? So thanks a lot for the person who wrote this email. You know, these things make me think again about things. This isn't a place where we, you know, it's not like writing a book. So it's probably not going to encompass everything in regards to this question, but we'll try to touch upon some interesting aspects of that. So thanks again. First of all, I want to remind us all that we all tend to talk about emotions using the words negative and positive. As this person did in his email, it's very, very natural and very common. But I want to remind us all that if we're talking about what makes our inner work work, one of the things that make it not work is referring to things as either positive or negative. And of course, that includes emotions as well. So it's very, very natural that we don't like feeling certain things that are unpleasant. But the moment I call emotions, for example, negative, then I am immediately judging. And when I'm judging, I'm immediately, in a way, tearing my fabric of consciousness, of life. You can see that, right? This is good, this is bad. This is positive, this is negative. And if we remember that from our point of view, or at least from my point of view, we naturally consist of many, many inner selves or parts, and some of them may be feeling good feelings, and some of them may be feeling unpleasant feelings. The moment we refer to them as negative or bad, these inner parts will feel unwanted or judged, or as if they're being pressured to change. And this absolutely doesn't work, because as we all know, if we try to work with a lot of judgment, or trying to fix things or things like that, then usually the work doesn't proceed. There's a lot of resistance to it. Okay, these are things we'll discuss more, but let's get back to this to the topic of today. So instead of calling emotions negative, positive, good or bad, since we must sometimes refer to them in some way, if we have to, we'd better call them things like less pleasant or difficult to experience or something like that, and kind of stop using the word negative and bad as far as possible. Okay, so back to the letter and the topic. So what this person spoke of was that whenever he felt uncomfortable emotions or feelings, then he does either meditation or something that's called emotional release, which, as far as I know, involves moving the body very, very powerfully, sometimes screaming and shouting in various ways, in order to allow the emotions, whatever they are, to move through the system and be released. So first of all, doing work that makes us feel good, again, that problematic word, is part of work that works, because I believe we really do need to experience feeling good. It's part of the process, and also we often need something that is a bit like emergency care. You know, we're feeling so terrible that we need to do something that will help us just, you know, for example, continue doing something that we have to do, or to just relax a little bit so we don't divorce our partner, you know, at the heat of the moment, and so on and so forth. So it's not a bad thing or an inadvisable thing to do something that is kind of an emergency work. And yes, just experiencing happiness or peace or something like that is definitely part of our healing and well-being and transformation. But the writer is right that there is a danger of doing or making a kind of emotional or spiritual bypass, or fooling ourselves in all sorts of interesting ways, because very, very naturally, we all, kind of generally speaking, do a lot to avoid feeling uncomfortable things. It's very, very automatic, you know, very much a part of our survival mechanisms also. So one of the first things I want to touch on is, before you start doing the work, for example, in your case, emotional release or meditation, try to check, do I want to avoid the discomfort and pain and anger or whatever it is I'm feeling? Or am I really creating a space of healing and transformation for my work? So what I suggest you do is create consciously a space of healing, first of all, before you even begin. So it can work like this. For example, you can state your intent to heal and transform in a balanced and healthy way. So maybe I would say, I'm now creating a space for the work I'm going to do through meditation, emotional release, or anything else. And the space I'm creating, I'm filling it and creating it with the intent of being a place of healing and transformation in a very balanced and healthy way for myself and for others too. Okay? So your intent would not be just to stop feeling uncomfortable or feeling something painful, etc., but would be healing. Okay, so that can be very, very helpful. Now, another thing regarding meditation, for example. When you meditate, I'm talking now to the person who wrote the letter, but it's relevant to us all. I don't know what form of meditation you're using, but whatever it is, at least for some of the times you're meditating, it sounds absolutely okay. But what I suggest is that at least some of the time, just sit with the difficult feeling you have without trying to do anything about it. So you're just with it, a little bit like the Zen expression, sitting in the fire or sitting through a storm, and you're not doing anything with it. You're just there, experiencing whatever is at that moment. Okay? And even you can, at least some of the times you meditate, go towards whatever you're feeling. So let's say you're feeling fear. So instead of perhaps trying to move the emotion, you go towards it, like greeting it, like saying hello, like agreeing to experience it and being there. I wouldn't say that is the only way of dealing with it, and being sure that while meditating you're not avoiding certain things. But if once in a while you do this, I think your work will probably be balanced enough. Okay. Now, when at least one of your methods of working is voice dialogue, or the various ways we use in the Flowering Diamond Way, it's easier to avoid these types of bypasses that are, as I said, super, super normal and natural and automatic, because when you use this kind of work, you allow each part of yourself, each inner self, to talk. And you, through that, you're really, it's talking through you. So you're really experiencing it without avoiding it, and you learn to do it little by little. And then little by little, you learn to really embrace each and every part of yourself. Of course, it's a gradual process. And when you use this type of method, the healing and relief and change really only happen when you actually accept the part, okay, the inner part or the inner voice. And it's very easy to feel the shift when that happens, okay? So that's one of the reasons I really like working in this way. It's because emotional bypasses are a little more difficult to to do. Okay. Also, in voice dialogue, we talk with opposing selves, and we continuously develop what we call the aware ego, or I prefer to call the aware I. Which is something we discussed a little bit, and we will probably talk about more in the future. But that makes a completely different approach to, how would I call it, to transformation in a very balanced way. Okay. Now, another thing that can help us kind of figure out whether our inner work is actually working or not. And this is very different for different people, because, you know, some of the people who are listening to these shows in this series, or to my work in general, have been doing inner work for a long time, and some are newer to the process. So some of what I say is kind of more for the beginners, and some is for the more experienced people. So take that into consideration, of course. But something that we don't often think about is the possibility to talk with somebody who knows us, and that we trust. That we trust to give us kind of a loving and honest assessment, and ask them, you've been watching me during this past year or 10 years or whatever. Am I changing? Am I healing? Do you think I'm developing? Or do you think I'm fooling myself? Now, I want to remind us all something that is so important, that's worth repeating. Once in a while, it happens quite a lot, I meet people who really, really believe that they're doing a lot of work, while they're actually not doing any work at all, almost. So how can it be so easy to fool ourselves in that respect? It is because, for example, watching a lot of good stuff, you know, on the internet, or reading a lot of books about inner work, or about meditation, or about anything else like that, feels to some of our parts like real work. You know, we're actually you know, giving time, and we think about it, and maybe we talk about it, but it doesn't really change us. Really, it doesn't. We really need to have methods, whatever they are, that we consider good, at least for a while. You know, we can always change, and to actually sit with ourselves and do the work. Now, in the beginning, sometimes it's very difficult to do it alone. And for the beginners, or people who just never tried it, you know, getting somebody to help can be very, very wise. But that never, ever, in my view, is enough. You know, you may go to a therapist for a few years or something, and that would be really, really good and helpful. But at some point, in order for your work to actually work, you will need to figure out how to also do your work with yourself, because that's when responsibility kicks in. That's when we become experts on ourselves, and our own leaders, and our own therapists, and our own whatever. Okay, so again, we can get help all the time if we need it. It's fine, but it's not enough. And these things are things that we need to build gradually. Very often in the beginning, people just won't be able to do the work themselves. They don't have any tools yet. They don't know where to begin. So yes, get help, of course, but remember that that's not what will solve everything for you. It's a way to discover how to be your own main leader and therapist, and I don't know, inner master and stuff like that. Okay. So As I said, consulting with other people is helpful for some people. But there's another thing that I find helps many people, which might be useful for some of us, and that is choosing a few things that we check regularly. Okay. For example, it can be you can decide to choose something between 2 and 20 parameters that you check. For example, how comfortable do I feel when I'm having sex? Okay. And you check it, once in a while. You say, it can be A, B, C, D, or between 1 and 100 or whatever. And you kind of have this periodical look into your life, and then you can see the graph. Okay. And in a moment, I'll explain why this can be very helpful for some of us. Another thing that you can check is, these are only examples, it can be anything. How am I feeling with my mother now? Or with the memory of my mother if she's not with you anymore, and you'll see if it's improving or not. You can, check how you're feeling with your body. How do you feel in the morning when you wake up or just before falling asleep? How comfortable do you feel when you need to do a lot of homework? How stressful it is for you. How much guilt you're feeling. Check it once a week or so. How much do you like yourself? How much of my internal dialogue is critical of myself and of others, or judgmental? Some people keep hearing, very, very critical inner selves talking inside them. So you can kind of have a way of checking that. How is my inner dialogue been lately? And then follow it and see if there's an improvement or not. And of course, there can be ups and downs. It's very, very natural. But still, you'll have a way of kind of seeing it graphically. Another thing, a very important thing, is something like how often am I reactive? How much can I control my automatic reactions? And these can be very, very many things. Maybe you're automatically angry a lot, or maybe you're automatically feeling guilt or shame or whatever, or maybe you're automatically trying to be very pleasant and nice, kind of a good boy or a good girl. So, which is, another automatic response, even if it's seemingly more pleasant than others, it's still automatic. You're still not free there. So you can check that. Generally speaking, following how your relationships in general are going is another good way to see if in the long run things are changing for the better. Because usually relationships improve in general when you do more work that actually works. Things like, how often do I feel like a victim, in a relationship? I noticed that last month it was almost always, and now it only happens 3 times a month. Okay, so maybe something's working here. Addictions, also a really, really good thing to follow if you're addicted to stuff. Again, do it without any guilt if it's not working, and without blaming yourself, and without judging yourself and feeling uncomfortable with anything. You're just noticing. You're paying attention to what's going on. That's all. Okay. And if there's a big improvement, then yay, how lovely. And you can congratulate yourself and celebrate it which is also something that really helps our inner work. But if you see that nothing's happened, or there's even, the situation is even worse, then that's also okay. It just gives you information to work with. It isn't bad or negative in any way, shape, or form. So all this type of things make us more discerning. We notice more, because it's amazing how little we notice when we don't really, kind of decide to actively do it again and again and again. Now, this is also reminds me of another really, really useful thing to do, which I recommend to anybody who wants to heal and change their lives, and that is having a journal, a work journal, in which you don't necessarily write if you brushed your teeth or anything like that in the morning, but you do write about your inner work and what's going on and how it's affecting you. And one of the main reasons for that is that you wouldn't believe how much we forget about what we felt before, what worked and what didn't work. For example, I know a person that didn't remember at all how horrible he felt before he began doing some therapy work and working with himself and stuff like that. And only the fact that he could read his journals years back made it clear to him how much he grew and healed. He wasn't aware of it. So really get it. You can really, really, really improve your life and not notice it, because it just becomes the new normal. But if you don't notice it, you're missing on something terribly important. Because if you know that you did something right and now things are working much better for you, then you've got something to build on. You trust your process more, you trust yourself more, you become more optimistic about the chances of healing, for example, or feeling more whole, or being more free or balanced, or whatever it is that you're working on. So actually writing in a journal as much as you can is extremely important. It's also true regarding another circumstance. Sometimes, very often, actually, not sometimes, when people are very depressed or feeling really, really stuck, or go through a very rough time in their lives, they don't remember that they used to feel better, or that there were times in their lives when they felt really good. Now, for some people, it can sound really ridiculous, but that's the fact is that it happens to a lot of people. So if you're feeling horrible and you can't remember that you felt better before that, you become very, very weak and very pessimistic, because you're completely disconnected with the fact that you can feel differently and that you have felt differently, and that there is no reason to think that you won't feel differently in the future too. Okay, so journaling, highly, highly recommended. It can be journaling in writing. It can be in art or any other way, but journaling is really, really a good way to do it. Let's see if there's anything else I wanted to say about this. A lot of what we spoke of now has to do, again, with discerning, with paying attention. And one of the things that I notice is that so many people don't create a life in which they have enough time to pay attention to what they're feeling and to write about it and to do the inner work. So one of the things that I really recommend is, just like I described, creating an intent for the work that I'm doing right now. For example, I'm going to do an emotional release right now, or I'm going to meditate. But first of all, I create an intent. And the intent and the space I'm forming for this work is a space of healing and transformation in a very balanced and healthy way for me. Okay, I don't just go straight into the work. So in the same way, I can create an intent and a space for my long-term work. Okay, so I say, for example, little by little, I find enough time and space to notice what is going on with me. I find enough time and space and energy to do my inner work. And little by little, you just allow it to become the way you live, even if it takes a year or two to make it so. Okay, so you just create a kind of direction that you say you're going towards. Okay, so that's it for this part of the show. We'll meet in a few seconds again, and we can talk about questions or anything else you might want to share. So hang on for a second and we'll meet again in a moment.